Hello everyone, and welcome to this Nuzlocke challenge for Pokemon Yellow. So, for all of you who are not all that deep into Pokemon and are wondering what a Nuzlocke is, let's have a look at some of the rules. The first rule may seem a little bit complicated, but it's actually fairly simple. I am only allowed to catch the first Pokemon on each route. So say for example I walk from Professor Oak's lab to Viridian City, I will come across Route 1, and if in the patch of grass there the first Pokemon that I meet is a Pidgey, I am only allowed to catch and use that Pidgey. This counts for any route I will come across during the game. First Pokemon, catch that. If you don't catch it, tough luck. The second rule is Faint is dead, which means if my Pikachu loses to Brock's Onix and faints, it's considered dead, I put it in a box, and I'm not allowed to use it anymore. So yeah, this basically counts for any Pokemon on your team, right? Which brings me to the next rule. If my team loses, I lose the game. So say in that same fight against Brock defeats all my Pokemon, every one of them faints, then I lose the challenge, lose the game, and I can either restart the challenge or give up. And the final rule is nickname your Pokemon. Then there's also a bunch of self-imposed rules that I just really wanted to use myself. First off, no legendaries. Why? Well, I think it makes the game too easy. Secondly, no potions or items during battle. I don't like healing while fighting, and I don't like using X items. I will allow myself the option to heal in between fights or after a fight. Then, the duplicate is new encounter clause. If I encounter the same Pokemon on a different route, I'm going to give myself the option to do the encounter again for something new. And finally, trade evolutions allowed. Why, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. I don't use emulators, I don't use online formats. I use an old school Nintendo, and I play all my Pokemon games in Pokemon Stadium via the Nintendo 64. This naturally means that I have bought Pokemon Yellow, Red and Blue, the original cartridges, as well as multiple transfer packs. Which is why I think I should be allowed to flex about the fact that I can trade with myself. Most people these days use emulators, and if you level up your Pokemon, they just evolve. I have all this old school equipment with which I can get the trade evolutions the legitimate way, and I think it would be a waste of potential not to use that. So let's dive into the Nuzlocke. As per usual, we start in Pallet Town, and we start in our room, in our mom's house, and what we have to do is get outside and walk into the patch of grass, and I'm gonna skip that bit and go right to Oak's lab where we get the Pokemon. So, here's the thing. There's this one Pokeball on the table, we all know the story, I think. And it's an Eevee, but Gary is a spoiled little brat and just straight up steals the Pokemon. Boom. So then you're left with, well, the really crappy wild Pikachu that isn't tame yet. And yeah, basically you give that thing a name, and then your rival wants to fight with you. So let's see what happens here. I've decided that normally people choose to let their Nuzlocke runs start after they get their Pokeballs or after they get their Pokedex. In my case, I decided not to, just to see what happens. So with the first fight, I decide to just go with a whole bunch of Thunder Shocks to see if we can get anything done against this Eevee. And we get immediate paralysis, which is nice. Only I'm not keeping a close eye to all the tail whips that the Eevee has done, and boom, there's a tackle that drops me to 7 HP. Another Thunder Shock, and it barely lives, and boom, critical hit, which didn't matter because it was at 7 HP. And that's game. We basically have to restart. So that's pretty much my first reset. Now let's see how well I perform during my second attempt. So it's basically the same story. Gary bitch claps me and steals the Pokemon, and then proceeds to challenge me to a fight with the Pokemon he just stole. During the second chance against my rival, I try to keep a closer eye on how many tail whips he uses, and try to answer that with growls of my own. But the thing is, I now get caught up in trying to lower Eevee's attack too much, which leaves a gap for the rival to deal a lot of damage. I sort of go for a desperation Thundershock here to try and get a paralysis, but it's way too late, and by now, this is pretty much a loss. There's a lucky miss from the Eevee, so I get a couple more shots in, which makes this fight look more close than it actually is, and eventually I get knocked out, and I get forced into my second reset. So let's just skip right ahead to the Gary fight, I suppose. And this time, it's just an all-out or nothing. Just gonna throw those Thunder Shocks. No real strategy, no real damage calcs. I've tried both Thunder Shocks and I've tried countering my rival's strategy, and both didn't really work, so I'm just gonna go for broke. And in this case, it works. I get a bunch of tail whips. He even misses a tail whip, and with some lucky RNG, I pick up the win on the third try. So there we are. We can finally move on with this Nuzlocke. Sweet. Mr. Jingles also goes up a level and, ironically enough, learns Tail Whip. And then we are ready to move on. As I make my way to Viridian City, I do occasionally get into a close shave here and there. But I manage to reach the city in fine style. I pick up the parcel at the Pokemart, and then I'm on my way again to Pallet Town to get my Pokedex. Alright, some Pokeballs. Some potions. I'm not quite sure how many I should get there. Maybe some antidotes. Maybe a couple of more antidotes. Alright, I think we're ready to start catching some Pokemon. So, what routes are my options for my first two encounters? Let's have a look. First off, we have Route 1 to the south, which is the route that runs up from Pallet Town to Viridian City. And secondly, there is Route 22 to the west, which is the route that ultimately leads to the Pokemon League. First off, Route 1. So let's have a look at what encounters I can get there. Well, there's the option to find the almighty Rattata and the ever-coveted Pidgey. So it's going to be either one of those two. Also, I feel I should add that I'm not counting my starter Pikachu as a Route 1 encounter. I'm not sure if that's against the rules or not, but for now, for this run, I'm just not using that rule. And my encounter is Pidgey, which, in my opinion, is the better option of the two. It definitely has some uses. So I'm just looking at how to catch it right now, and because of the level range, I think Thunder Shock will one-shot. So I'm just gonna throw a Pokeball and see what happens. And we get it first try. Sweet. So we add a Pidgey to the team, give it an amazing nickname, and then we move on to Route 22. Route 22 has a couple of options. There's Rattata again. We can catch a Spearow. There's Mankey, which I personally kind of like. And the Nidoran male and female. And then there's the wild encounter with your rival as well. But we'll leave that for now since it's optional and we can basically do that fight whenever we want to. Nidoran is actually a really good encounter. This has something to do with the fact that you can get a Nidoking as early as Mount Moon. If you train up your Nidoran to level 16, you can then grab a Moonstone at Mount Moon, and from there on out you'll have a Nidoking, which is really bulky, really good, and so some people say you should ban it. I, however, am not one of those people. And so Nidoran gets added to the team as well, which is a really nice addition. It's at this point that I decide to do a little grinding session to level up my Pokemon to level 8 to be ready for the rival fight on Route 22. So right now, there are a couple of questions. For example, will I be able to make it to the first gym badge? Will I even be able to make it through Viridian Forest? Or even worse, will I be able to defeat my rival at this point? Or am I going to get stomped and will my rival force me to do my third reset? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that is to join me again next time for the second episode of this Pokemon Yellow Nuzlocke. I would like to thank you for watching, and I would like to kindly ask you to leave a like if you enjoy this kind of content. Have a nice day.